I was none of it. I was just another 17-year-old guy, going to school, not concerned too much with grades, struggling sometimes with mathematics, not sometimes, always. Struggling with mathematics, keeping pace with coursework. So I was a student at the Heritage School in Kolkata, and my teacher, especially my headmaster, always had a tough time getting me out of the dining hall, because I was a foodie. And I was also very talkative, because I loved talking to my friends. I'm sure all of you will relate to this, that I love talking to my friends, I love listening to them, to their stories, to the things they want to say. And I was curious and intuitive about how the world works, about how humans have problems, and how to share these problems. And it was one such conversation that happened in the same dining hall of my school that changed my life for what I am today. It was a conversation with a senior of mine in the International Bachelorette program of my school. She was talking to me about how she was doing internships in social justice for children, and it was a part of her curriculum. Now, I was an ISC student. My world opened with books, closed with books. It started in the classroom, and it ended with thinking about the classroom. And there I was, thinking that internships were perhaps an avenue, and the only one, for me to break this academic monotony, for me to get out of the walls of classrooms and look at the world for what it really was. And so, right after lunch, I was outside my principal's office, asking her if I, as an ISC student, could also do an internship. She was very encouraging of my proposal. And right on the same day, I was connected to an organization which was working on violence against children and trafficking in Kolkata. So it all started with one right intention. And I'm going to talk to all of you about the results with mixed emotions. On the first day of my internship, the first day of my summer vacation as well, as I sat through briefs and presentations during my internship, I was told that Kolkata, my home city, was one of the largest hubs of child trafficking in India. It shook me for a minute. I realized that the city I've been calling home all this while, where I've grown up with a safe environment, with a privileged education, with a bus to board on and get off when I'm out of home, the same city had thousands of children who were taken away from their homes, never to return again, and never to witness childhood ever again. It struck me, and it hit me hard. It felt that all my education, all the work that I had seen through books, all my privileged upbringing, all of it felt so unreal. I felt like I was living in a sweet, pleasurable bubble, a world of my own. And this reality, beyond this, everything felt extremely unreal. And in the past 4 years, when I worked in the course of making change, talking about children's rights, one thing I've realized, that it all starts with one right intention. When you have a strong intention with you, it can take you to places and put you in places where you can actually voice them. And so there I was. But today, when we are at a place where endless schedules consume us, where we think social change, or what we know as charity, can only be done through money. Some of us believe that if we do not have money, or we do not have too much surplus to spend off, we will not be able to bring about social change. But that is not true. In my course of change making, I have realized that many of the problems in the society exist simply because we are not aware of them. And so in 2019, when I went for community awareness programs in slums of Kolkata, where children are most vulnerable to trafficking, I realized that children and parents had no clue that a problem like child trafficking exists. And I was shocked, because that was the community which faced the most cases of child trafficking. And then I realized that most of us, like most of us here, while those families had heard of children or some distant child being missing or sold, they had not cared enough to ask. Ladies and gentlemen, it is this inawareness of ours that breeds a lack of intention. And this lack of intention is the cause of so many social problems around us today. Yet so many young people approach me today, wanting to know, how do you start your change-making journey? How can I start my change-making journey? Importantly, and the clicking question, how can I speak with international organizations? How can I sit with forums? And my answer is simple. It all starts with an intention. As long as you have a strong intention, nothing can stop you from creating a change. You do not need money, you do not need connections, and the least you need is perfect grades, because I had none. All you need is one strong intention to drive you. When you have a strong intention, it will automatically drive you to create a change, because it will drive you to have some awareness. And when you are aware, it will push you to action. And I'll tell you how. After my own hard realizations in Kolkata and the reality of what was happening there, I had my own intention. I developed one. And it was to create a difference in lives of children across the world. And so I realized that I need more training, I need more access, I need to scramble for opportunities, as I did. And there I was, again in front of my principal's office, asking for another letter of recommendation to apply for another internship during my autumn break. And this time, I got the opportunity to work under the then Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry, Honorable Dr. Kiran Bedi. That internship gave me a perspective on change. Because often in my interactions with Dr. Bedi, she always used one line. It's always possible. And it is this mantra of it's always being possible that drove me to work on my intention harder. She also taught me to have clarity with my intentions. If I have an idea, it's important to place it in context of time, in context of place. When do I want to achieve that idea? And so, with all the learnings that I had got out of Dr. Bedi's office, the same year, I was nominated to represent my country at an international conference about children's rights. And before I knew it, I was talking to ministers, administrators, internationally, talking about my intention, about my voice. My voice was my intention, which is to demand a better life, a better world for children around the world. And carrying that intention always has challenges. Because whenever you have strong intentions, and so many speakers have spoken about it today, there will always be challenges. I was a student when I started this journey, and I had my own set of distinct challenges. I had to balance between my studies, between change-making journeys, and conferences, and work, and advocacy messages. I had to take care of everything, and then a few months after my change-making journey had started, what I realized was that all of us were locked up in our homes because of the pandemic. But as the French poet Victor Hugo has said, that no force on earth can stop an idea whose time has come. And so no exam could perhaps stop me from pursuing my intentions, because always my school was there, ready to make sure that whatever intentions I have, I can pursue them. It promoted me. And I remember that after missing series of classes, weeks of classes, when I was back to school, teachers, instead of scolding me, principal, instead of getting on me, they actually sat me down and asked me about my experience, asked me about how it felt to be at a particular place with administrators, asked me about how it felt to work under a personality like Dr. Bedi. That was something which mattered. And of course, with academic dilemmas, there were moral dilemmas too. It got extremely exerting to balance between my curriculum as well as my change-making, my intentions. It got extremely pressurizing to work on both. But whenever that happened, I always found my family to be my moral support. And my family always stood there for me, and because of that, I was able to balance both. And so whenever there was a dilemma whether I should go for a conference or perhaps study for my next exams, I always found my mother standing behind me and telling me that do whatever your voice wants, and my voice always, of course, went for creating a change. And so that's the route I always chose. And so often when I think about these challenges which I faced in the change-making journey, I think about something about a change maker whose intentions got freedom to this country. Mahatma Gandhi writes in his autobiography that when all hope is gone, when helpers fail and comforts flee, help arrives somehow from where I know not. And so even the pandemic could not stop me. It was during the pandemic that the world was going online, so I took my ideas online. And through my online advocacy, I was connected soon through an international initiative called #COVID-19. I was connected to a group of young people from around the world who had the same intention as me, which was to create a difference in the lives of children around the world. And suddenly, working with so many other young people around the world gave me an unusual sense. And that sense was a sense of solidarity. When I knew that all these years that I have worked for my intention, I'm not alone in working for them. That there are so many other young people around the world who care about social issues that I do, who think the same way that I do, and who have been working towards an intention like me. That sense of solidarity was something that always stayed with me, because it told me that I am not alone. And so, while alone, I was able to advocate for my ideas. I spoke at national forums and went to regional forums. But while my voice together, I was able to make my voice international. I was able to speak at international conferences. I was able to work with all the international academicians, write with them. And I was also able to exert my voice, more importantly, as one voice from amongst thousands of young people from around the world. That was what mattered to me, because it ignited me to realize the vision of a Nobel laureate like Kailash Satyarthi, to unite the world through compassion for children. That was what drove me, the power of togetherness. And I often marvel at how important togetherness is for creating a change. Because when we are alone, when we have intentions alone, our perspectives are limited, and hence our awareness is limited. And since our awareness is limited, there's always a limited potential for a change. But when we are together, expressing our intentions collectively, we have an unlimited potential to talk of. And that is the core message, which is that young people with common intention should come together to advocate for a change. Still, a large part of my work at #COVID-19 and other places has been to advocate for intergenerational partnership. Now, what does this mean? Intergenerational partnership is nothing apart from uniting generations from across children, young people, adults, to have a common intention. So it is all about solidarity. And after all it takes for you to share your intention is a conversation. So the next time you learn something or come to know about something which talks to your intention, which contributes to your intention, and the next time that you are with your group of people, I'm pretty sure that there are so many forums here in the school itself, make sure that you strike a conversation about it. That is how you sow the seeds of intention around you. And that is the way to change. Now lastly, I also want to talk to you about how important it is that while we have strong intentions, we also have strong ways to express those intentions. Now we all have our own way of expressing our intention. We often do not know about it. Like when I started, I had no clue how to express my intentions. But all we need to do is to find them. So in the past 4 years, I've had several hats to wear. I've been an academic, working together with professionals from around the world, writing research papers and doing academic writing. I've been a poet. I've published books and poems on my anthologies, writing and thinking about challenges children face across the world. I've also been, most of other times, I've been an advocate, speaking at conferences, talking to people about how to create a change, engaging with different leaders and decision makers. But through all of this, I've used different skill sets. But most importantly, through all of this, I have been cognizant of what means would make the most amount of effect. What means do I specialize in to realize, to put forward my intention? We all have our way of putting forward our intention. We need to find them. And so when I started, I remember that I was back from, a field visit where I witnessed a lot of disturbing things. Of course, I was young age when I started with this. I mentioned a lot of disturbing things, and that was making me restless after a field visit to a area which was very vulnerable to trafficking. And so after the field visit, when I came back, I picked up my pen and I started writing my thoughts. Because it felt relieving to me. It felt like it's soothing me from the inside. And so I soon realized that while to me, this writing, this piece of paper is so relieving, so soothing to take off my burden, to someone else, this can be a source of awareness. And so what started as a passage, a random passage in my diary, went on to become my first blog. And so many people read it, they got their own ideas, they got their own feeling, and I always tell them that whatever feelings you have after anything you socially engage with, write them down, because it helps you to articulate. But that's besides. My point is that once I was done with blogs, I realized that I have a thing for academic writing. So I went forward with it, and soon I was working with academicians, writing papers with them. I also realized that sometimes academic writing can get boring, so I like to play around with words. I like to keep words where I want. And so I became a poet. I started writing poems, engaging with children's lives, things around me. And so the essence is that I've had this list of things where I feel I can express my intentions at best. And I stand here asking you all to question yourself, what is yours? That is the essence. Ladies and gentlemen, history is full of people who have worked towards a change, who had had an intention and have created a change. And you can be one too. All you need to do is to start with an intention, let your intention feed into your awareness, and let your awareness push you towards collective action in your own way. By starting with your intention, by making ourselves aware, by having the right intention, and by walking together with our peers, our friends, our colleagues, and people around us, all of us can be change makers, and all of us can create a change with intention. Thank you so much.